So the Super Mario Bros. Movie just kind of happened a few months ago, and went on to shatter box office expectations, becoming the second highest grossing animated film of all time, right behind Frozen 2. Not only that, but it held the title of highest grossing film of 2023, period, for like 6 months, in a year with Spider-Verse and Oppenheimer and Guardians and Barbie, which would eventually dethrone it, kind of rightfully so. That movie is a bit of a masterpiece. But needless to say, Nintendo and Illumination have a lot to celebrate with this one. They stuck to their guns when the entire world laughed at them for casting Chris Pratt as Mario, and in the end I actually enjoyed his performance. But all that's in the past. Let's talk about what comes next, because let's just say it would be pretty stupid to let the trail run dry here. First, and spoilers, the post-credit scene of the Mario movie film does tease a sequel, with the Yoshi egg hatching that was seen in the movie. Beyond that, we also know that Chris Pratt has been actually teasing news on a sequel already, and had his own comments about wanting to start a Nintendo cinematic universe of some sorts. And second, while I think Chris might be jumping the gun a little bit there, I do believe Nintendo is poised to bring more IP individually to the big screen. That leads us to the next logical conclusion, and the topic of today's video, a Legend of Zelda movie. So rumors have already been swirling about this from people claiming to have insider scoops, so I'm gonna break it all down for you because it gets kind of confusing. So the stories that I've seen the most of are from Jeff Schneider on the Hot Mic podcast and Nintendo leaker Zippo, who both have a lot to say about this potential Zelda movie. Jeff Schneider on the Hot Mic podcast, released on June 8th, said this, quote, "I'm told that Universal is in fact closing a big deal with the Nintendo Corporation for the Legend of Zelda rights. Zelda is looking to be the next big Nintendo Illumination franchise, which again, I think we all were sort of expecting, but yeah, I'm told that is happening." This was followed later by Nintendo leaker Zippo on July 13th, which is a bit later, and this leaker's reputation is kind of shaky at best, but I do think that what they're saying here, even if they don't have any insider information, is like an extremely good guess at what is going on behind the scenes and kind of what I think is going on behind the scenes, so we're going to talk about it a little bit anyway. Here's what Zippo had to say. "In addition to the very obvious Mario sequel and Donkey Kong film, which you heard first from me a long time ago, I can independently confirm from my own sources that a Zelda movie and Luigi-focused spin-off are all in production at Illumination. From what I'm hearing, Zelda will be an amalgamation of very different Zelda games, rather than a straight adaptation, like, say, Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, etc. Also, yes, Link will speak. The only part of this that I really disagree with is that Link will speak. I don't know if I can see that happening, but we'll see. But despite these two claims, Illumination CEO Chris Meledandri then went on record in an interview with The Wrap published June 15th, lightly denying the claims of a Zelda movie in production. I don't know where that came from. I mean, I can understand how people would surmise all sorts of things because obviously we've had a great experience working together. My relationship with Nintendo now includes being on their board of directors, so I understand how people can surmise these things. But in terms of specifics, that was just something I've been hearing lots of reports. This is just about what's between Nintendo and Illumination. After Illumination denied the rumor, though, Schneider addressed it again in his podcast. We extrapolated that it was going to be Illumination that made this movie because of the success they had with Mario, but Illumination is not involved. First of all, no one's involved until Universal gets the rights, and that's what I reported last week, that Universal made the deal. The news said Universal is making a Zelda movie. They're getting the rights to do it, and Universal hasn't called me. I like to think that I have a good enough relationship with Universal. I did give them a 24-hour heads up about the story. Nobody had an issue with it, so I get it. These are high-level discussions that are happening between Universal and Nintendo, but I'm telling you, these two are in negotiations for Zelda, whether it goes to DreamWorks Animation or Illumination, or they do live action. I believe that Schneider is telling the truth here, and that even if he did lack the insider info, he's still on the money. It just makes sense. Nintendo and Illumination just produced the second largest animated film of all time. It's not so far-fetched to believe that they are now in early discussions about several new upcoming projects and utilizing recognizable IP. The only ways I could see this not happening in some form at Universal right now is because, one, Nintendo is already working on their own Zelda movie with their recently purchased animation studio. Two, they outsourced the rights elsewhere. Or three, they were about to close a deal with Universal, but got scared off because of rumors leaking it. I'm not joking about that last one either. Nintendo has actually done that before. When Netflix leaked plans of a Legend of Zelda project, Nintendo reportedly cut ties with both them on the Zelda project and a claymation Star Fox series that was also in development. So I guess we're at the big question now. Do I want a Zelda movie? Do we need a Zelda movie? Is this a good idea? I honestly think so. I think it would be good. I think they can pull it off. Animated or even live action, I welcome both. What it really comes down to is three factors: where, when, and how. So we're going to start with the how. What studio is going to make this? Is it going to be Illumination? Is it going to be someone else? Is it going to be Nintendo? Well, I see a few different things that could happen here. In my ideal world, this movie is made by Studio Ghibli. That world is... I don't know if that one exists, like, anywhere. That just seems very far-fetched, but that's what I would like to happen. Especially now that, like, Miyazaki is on his last film. I mean, his son could do it, but kind of hazy track record. I like him, though. The realistic option, Illumination. They did a fantastic job on Mario, and I think they could pull off Zelda. I think if you're going to do a Zelda movie without Link talking, they might actually be your best bet. I know that that sounds kind of weird because they gave Mario a voice and everything, but I feel like they could actually pull off a Zelda movie without Link talking, and I feel like they would be forced to because Miyamoto is kind of watching their every move on this. From what we understand, he has very, very large amounts of creative control over what is happening in these movies. That's why the animation on the last one looked so good, and he has historically hated the idea of giving Link a voice. Link is a standing character. Then again, movies are different, we'll see, but I don't know. I kinda think if we're doing animation, we can do it without giving Link a voice. Now, live action. This one is a bit polarizing. Some people would like to see this. Some people would hate more than anything to see Tom Holland on the screen as Link. I'm not saying Tom Holland should be Link. I'm not. I don't think he should. But I am saying that I think a live-action Zelda movie would actually work extremely well. Better than most video game adaptations we've seen. Maybe like the best for a live-action adaptation. I see that story, I see that world, and I see it very transferable into what could be a really good movie setting. The story's not too overly complicated, the world is not too overly complicated, but it's still very interesting, very original, and very notable. People know about The Legend of Zelda. The where. This is the hardest question, because where do you set this Zelda movie? Do you make something new? Do you make an amalgamation? Or do you kind of play off just one story? If we're talking about making something new, we're kind of talking about what Zippo said in their alleged leak, where we're taking tons of different elements of The Legend of Zelda and kind of smushing it into one world, kind of like they did with Mario. It would be a very similar idea. I think if Illumination did it, that is one route they could definitely take. Again, I keep saying Illumination, but like Schneider said earlier too, it might not even be them. It could be DreamWorks. It could be some other studio if it's not Universal that's getting it. I just think that a Zelda movie is kind of inevitable, and these reports are like our first little glimpse at what it could be. And they could be right, they could be wrong. but in the end, it's inevitable. When I think about like a shared universe where you're mushing different elements together, like the Great Sea and the Twilight Realm and Termina, I don't know, like you're putting all these elements that don't mesh because they're like different worlds and trying to create one like mega Zelda universe. I look at this map, actually, this Zelda map, which I have a puzzle of up on my wall. It's actually very beautiful. It's a very hard puzzle to make, but beyond the point, this is kind of what I imagine. An amalgamation of the greatest hits of Hyrule that can kind of just show the greatest points of the series. Now, this next one, I believe, is the safest route, which is to just directly adapt games. Because, like I said earlier, Zelda stories are not overly complicated, but they are good. Well, not all of them, but many of them are good. And I think they would adapt very, very well into movies. I look at 2 in particular, and I think you barely have to touch those, and even if you do touch them, you could just enhance them, which is Majora's Mask and Link's Awakening. I would love to just see direct adaptations of both of those titles. And if we're looking at Link's Awakening, I think Illumination could do a great job. I think that would be prime suspect for a Link that doesn't talk. Kind of just take what Grezzo was doing with the art style and expand upon it. You could make a very, very beautiful film. Majora is already a film to me. I freaking love that game and the atmosphere of it. It just sells itself. You do not have to touch much. It would be a masterpiece. And finally, we could be looking at something completely new. Kind of like Mario was to an extent. It's weird because Mario, it was an amalgamation of things, but it was also new in a way. They pulled from the Super Show in a lot of ways, which they could potentially do with Zelda. There was a Zelda cartoon. This one, I don't know. You could make your own take on Zelda. I feel like that might be kind of the worst way to go, and taking inspiration from the cartoon, kind of like you did with the Super Show, doesn't work as much for me because the Super Show is beloved in my eyes. I actually really enjoy watching episodes of that. The Zelda show, not so much. They could bring back the evil jar though, so I mean, that could be fun.
As for you, back in the evil jar!
Finally, when can we expect to see a Zelda movie on the big screen? Well, it's probably gonna be a while. So first of all, we have the strikes going on right now, which is kind of stopping any production of like any films like in its tracks, which is good because like it's kind of stupid what Hollywood is doing, and I'm not gonna talk about that all day, but yeah, I don't like it. But yeah, point is, Zelda movie probably gonna be a while, whether live action or animated. If it's animated, I expect it to be longer, just because my number one candidate for it right now is Illumination, just because it makes sense. And I think they're kind of a bit busy at the moment. They're probably developing a Luigi's Mansion or Donkey Kong movie and a sequel to the Mario movie. I don't know if they're doing all 3. I expect at least 2 of those are happening, and I'm excited to see them, but I think Zelda would be put further down the pipeline then. So I'm gonna say like 2026 is when I'd expect to see a Zelda animated movie. Maybe a year earlier if we're doing live action. Depends on really who's making it, you know? Because like the Mario movie took 6 years to make. I love sharing that fact because it's insane. That's a long time to make an animated movie. Granted, a lot of that was post-production, I'm sure, because they had to work out the deals between Nintendo and Illumination. Yeah, if this was actually going to work, Nintendo was probably pretty hesitant. Now they're probably not. But yeah, production pipeline could be kind of long, could be a bit shorter. From what I understand, the animation on the Mario movie only took 2 years, so who knows? In conclusion, yes, a Zelda movie is coming. Yes, I'm optimistic about it. And yes, in a perfect world, it would be made by Studio Ghibli. Hey everybody, welcome to the outro of this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you can subscribe to this channel. It's a channel where I post videos about Nintendo and maybe eventually other stuff. I don't know. I'm just gonna do what I like right now, guys. the channel's just, we're just vibing. We're being cool. And a lot of that's going to be Zelda. A lot of that's maybe going to be some other stuff. So just stick around, have some fun with me, and we'll talk about video games as we do. Have a good one, guys, and I'll see you soon.